Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Bidigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Despard, and I am the People Management Specialist and Wellness Guru here at LGP. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules today to join us for the launch of the LGP Leadership Programs. LGP commenced its own leadership program 3 years ago with the team from Courageous Leaders, and we launched our Future Leaders program 12 months ago. We have seen our people grow and embrace vulnerability and courage. We have seen staff overcome youthful preconceptions and build trusting, safe relationships conducive to collaboration and innovation. Mandy Holloway is our dedicated facilitator for the Leadership Forums and has significant experience facilitating leadership development initiatives. She brings a wealth of business and leadership experience, having spent significant time leading within a Big Four accounting firm environment and consulting with a variety of clients as the co-founder of Courageous Leaders over the past 20 years. Mandy has worked with many organisations within government, not-for-profit, retail, utilities, health, insurance, and the banking sectors. Mandy's extensive business experiences mean she brings context to the leadership forums that will challenge the intellectual and emotional competence of your highly experienced and your future leaders. As a leadership trailblazer who put courage into action to achieve significant firsts in her own career, Mandy knows how to inspire people to be courageous in the way they lead themselves, others, and their organisations. She is passionately committed to creating high-performing work cultures that build long-term organisational sustainability. Please join me in welcoming Mandy Holloway.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and I'm absolutely delighted to be working with LGP in this way and to talk about the new product that we're launching. It's the Leadership Forum. And what I'd like to do is walk you through the what, the why, and the how. So what is it all about? Why would anyone want to participate? And very importantly, how it's going to be delivered so that every single leader that comes along develops greater confidence, conviction, and courage in their leadership mastery, so that as a population of leaders at your council, you're actually uniting through that courage to challenge, be challenged, and change, and absolutely create a high-performing culture. So let's go off and explore. What's the what? What is it all about? Well, there's two elements to it. The first bit is stretching capability. And as my colleagues at LGP will know, you're encouraged to come and work in your learning zone, to rattle your cage of habits and really take a deeper dive into self. What do I know about self? How can I bring out the best in myself? So what you end up doing is validating existing habits, but also finding new habits, which is really important, and identify opportunities for personal growth. Stretching capability is also about stretching and expanding your thinking into the latest leadership thinking that's out there in the marketplace. And very importantly, and I'll explain that in a bit more detail later, is experimenting with new behaviours. We have ways to support you and encourage you to actually go back to your councils and actually experiment with new behaviours. The other element of the leadership forums is also supporting leadership performance. So this is very much around deepening your accountability for change and saying we want to support you very much to actually take what you're learning back into the workplace. And we do that by deepening what it is we're looking at. So we're actually exploring and addressing current leadership challenges and encourage you to bring them into the forum, as well as sharing your leadership wins and your performance highlights, because it's really, really important to look at what you're doing well and sharing and learning from each other in that way. And I'll explain to you sort of a little bit later in more depth as well. It's about creating that cohort experience where you're feeding off each other and creating energy with each other, which is really powerful when you're wanting to learn. So if that's the what, Why? Why do I want to participate? Why do I want to start looking at leadership habits? Well, one of the things that I'd like to share, and I know this is probably evident to many of you, is that leadership has become even more critical than ever before over the last 2 years, because we've not only had to ignite change, we've had heaps of change imposed on us. And there's been significant changes within the way we need to operate and work together. So why participate? Because leaders have to generate even greater confidence, conviction, and courage in stepping into that space to actually be a leader. And the why participate is because you'll have decisions being made with greater confidence and, very importantly, with greater speed. You'll have conflict being resolved more constructively and, again, quicker. You'll have relationships being strengthened by deepening trust and becoming more constructive in the way you treat each other. You'll have action being influenced with greater speed, with greater confidence and courage, and therefore change being embraced, again, with greater speed and with greater buy-in. You'll be able to manage your funds with greater efficiency and effectiveness as a leader, and explore the confidence, conviction and courage you can bring to making those decisions to benefit your communities. And accountability for performance, and actually empowering people to take accountability for performance. Ultimately, you'll have a culture that's more constructive. Service delivery will be optimized to your communities, and you'll resolve current leadership challenges with far greater speed. There's quite a lot of good benefits there. What are the options? How does it get delivered? As I mentioned before, not only are we looking at two different, so looking at stretching leadership capability, but also supporting performance. What we do is we split it into foundational capability or advanced capability, and you choose where you want your people to go. Foundational capability sessions will be 90-minute sessions, whereas the advanced capability sessions will be 3 hours. But both options will be based on cohort-based learning, which means we increase the knowledge uptake and the capability uplift, because we create this community of learners who are supporting and encouraging each other. So let me dive into both of those with just an overview, and then love to have your questions so that you can find out more. The foundational capability session, it's a 90-minute virtual session. And it will focus on current fundamental leadership topics. So it's probably going to be more tailored if you want to refresh your management capability, or if you've got people that are progressing into wanting to manage and also stretch into leadership. So we start with some basics like delegating for success, self-management to drive focus, managing my time, managing my energy, being able to give feedback to generate higher levels of awareness with my team members, and also giving feedback upwards. And how do I have hard conversations? And that's just a little snapshot. There's obviously what we do is create probably 11 topics, because we always find January is a bit of a slow month with people coming back. But again, we'll rely on feedback from you. And there will be a habit building challenge for 21 days. And I'll explain that in just a moment. So that's what your foundational capability looks like. If you choose to take the advanced capability option, which is a session for 3 hours once a month. So these sessions happen once a month. And as I said, we'll rely on feedback from you, but I know the other forums that I've run with other clients, what we generally find is we'll do early December, we won't do January, and we'll restart again in February, because people need a break and they need to refresh and re-energize. So the advanced capability is a 90-minute virtual session, but it will focus more on the latest leadership topics. So it'll be a slightly higher stretch from a knowledge perspective. So we might look at things like empowering leadership. What are we doing to deepen and enable trust in a hybrid environment? How do we use culture as a retention magnet? And we'll be relying on looking at, what's actually happening in the market and what you want to focus on. Habit building challenge for 21 days again, and that habit building challenge will relate to the topic that we covered in the session. We then take a little 15-minute break, and then we come back and we do a hot seat consultation where people are bringing a challenge, and they sit in the hot seat and they get asked lots of questions so that ultimately they decide what action they want to take when they leave the session, and their colleagues are supported and help them and share similar experiences. And we also spend some time sharing highlights and wins. So let me tell you about the Habit Building Challenge. The Habit Building Challenge is, and I know my colleagues from LGP will be able to give you more insight into it. Basically what it's doing is supporting you to create the behavior change. And we have a little recipe for helping you to understand what a habit is. So when this happens, which is your trigger, instead of doing this, which is my normal habit, I will do this, which is my new habit. And what you do is you check in on your habit every day. You have an accountability buddy to support you. I will be in there on the platform coaching you. So you are actually encouraged to seek at minimum 1% uplift on your capability during those 21 days. So it's pretty exciting to be involved in the Habit Building Challenge. And for me, it's been a real game changer when it comes to actually supporting and guiding people to create the change. And yeah, I think that's about it. I think I know I'd love to answer questions. So as I said to you, it's foundational capability, advanced capability. They happen with sessions once a month over, let's say 11 months, and you choose whether you want the 3-hour session or the 90-minute session. And I've been actually doing that with a number of people, a number of clients with great success. So I'm actually now going to hand over to Michelle so that we can have a panel discussion.
Great. Thanks. I've been working with Mandy for a number of years now, not just the 3 years that we've been running our program at LGP, but prior to that as well in different organisations. And I have to say, I'm still learning every day. Every day I'm learning from Mandy, stretching myself in my own leadership. So thanks so much, Mandy, for sharing that with us. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our presentation in terms of our launch. Joining Mandy and I on our panel this morning, to help us answer some of these questions for you in practical terms of how we use this in the workplace is my esteemed colleague, Annabelle Madden, and he is the Head of Contract Compliance and Optimisation at LGP, and he is a strategist in business and procurement. So Annabelle, please join us. Yep, we can see you. Yep.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm in.
We'd really love for you to be putting your questions into the chat, so we can answer any of those sort of burning questions that you may have for Mandy or for Annabelle and myself. We can talk from, I guess, our perspective in terms of how we've experienced working alongside Mandy with her leadership expertise and how that's made change and difference at LGP. So we'd just love to hear from you on what you would want to know out of this program and these forums. While we're doing that, maybe Annabelle, if you can talk to us about some of the changes I guess you've seen at LGP in the time that you've been with us since starting, and Annabelle's joined us on our Future Leaders program, so he's currently in the process of working through that. So just talk to us about some of those changes, Annabelle.
Sure. I've seen at least, I guess, 2 cohorts go through this leadership journey. The first cohort went through it before me, and then there's a second cohort, out of which a lot of the members of the second cohort are also part of my team going through this. And I've just sort of seen a lot of changes that have happened in the cohort as a result of it. For example, this is I guess mentally, it's mentally and emotionally, it's a very different kind of a journey, a different kind of an experience than what we typically have in our workplace. It's almost akin to, soldiers sort of going out in war, and they become, sort of comrades in the meantime, because there's a lot of, I guess, pushing out of the comfort zone that people experience, and with that comes a level of vulnerability and a level of camaraderie that people build as a result of it. And outside of the course itself, what I've seen is that I guess the disagreements that we used to have over small issues have almost disappeared. There's a lot more openness and constructive conversation that typically tends to happen in my team, and even beyond in the business, where we do find ourselves within conflicts. And I'm finding that people are addressing these conflicts in a very, very professional manner, very very balanced manner, without really getting into a lot of, I guess, fights, so to speak. Not that they were fist punching before, but it was it was a little bit more. There was a lot more friction before, and I'm finding that the relationships have become much more lubricated, and the business is operating a lot more efficiently and seamlessly than before.
And I think one of those, or the key word I think there is collaboration. That's certainly been something I've seen change at LGP over the past few years. It's sharing our experiences, being vulnerable with one another, and how that builds trust amongst the group and the team, and then flows obviously onto the organisation. That's certainly something I've seen through working with Mandy. Yeah.
And I think picking up on what Anubhav was saying, one of the things that and it's lovely to hear him talk about it, is that I think what the people are doing is igniting conflict when it's far less, there's far less fuel for it, rather than waiting for it to erupt. So it's like doing some back burning rather than waiting for the bushfire. And people have been scared of doing that historically, and now they're doing it. And it means your relationships, there's less friction in them, which is great.
Mandy, we do have a question. Are the learning sessions a group forum, and how many people are involved?
Awesome. So yes, they are group forums. So when we have even the foundational capability, or the other one, the advanced capability, we're looking at having an average between sort of 16 to 20 people. And what we do is we make sure we use breakout rooms. Pre-reading goes out beforehand, and people come with some questions that they've answered, and they get put in and out of little groups. So you're sort of working in groups of usually about two or three, and you're in and out of breakout rooms, supporting each other, having some great conversations. So it's very interactive. Even though it's online, it's very, very interactive. But we find that cohort, that what you then do also is you start having accountability buddies that support you and help you on your journey, which is really exciting.
And we've done that similarly at LGP. So when we do our programs with Mandy, we then have what we call special learning partner groups. And it's a little bit like the cohort. A small group of people are together, sharing their learnings and their experiences with one another. That then flows on obviously to the habit builder as well. Yeah.
And what I can do is I can probably just add a little bit to that, because I've been a part of a special learning group as well, as I've seen my teams evolve through the special learning group. And essentially, for me, myself, I found that just being able to share some of the challenges that you're facing and some of the issues that you're dealing with, the special learning group just gives you those two extra heads to help you resolve your problem. Now, you probably won't get a ready-made solution as such, but you get the clues that you need to solve your problem. And typically the clues, because they're all on the same journey, they are really, really good. The other thing is that I'm also seeing that within my team, and they're using the special learning groups just to enhance the way that they're working, and really working through how can I get the best outcome for my area, my job. And I'm finding that to be quite effective as well.
Great. Thank you, Anubhav. Mandy, can you explain a little bit more about how the habit builder works? So how does it help to reinforce the learnings and the habits for the individual?
So what we do is we look at each session, and we might look at actions, we might look at awareness, or we might look at leading self, leading teams, leading the organization. And what we do is we create a few themes for each of the topics. And we say, okay, so let's just say we're looking at self-management. And so there might be an option that you could focus on managing my time, or I might want to focus on managing my energy, or I might want to focus on managing my workflow. So this is a current one that I'm running with a client. And so you choose where your weak area is, what you want to strengthen, and you're then invited to check in every day on how you're going with that commitment, which might be as simple as like, when I start my day, my work day, instead of opening my computer, going straight to my email and calendar, I will stop, take 5 minutes to focus on what my top priority is and what I want to spend time on today and how I'm going to do that. And so it actually is a memory, a trigger for your memory to go, oh, that's right, this is what I wanted to change. So we look at the routine habit that you have and you go, what can we do to break into that and shift it? And by doing that and grabbing your insights every day, you start to learn how you can change.
Yeah, we've been using the Habit Builder throughout our programs at LGP. And I have to say, it's probably a game changer. I mean, I've done run multiple leadership programs over my career in HR. And certainly the biggest impact I have seen is that use of this Habit Builder. So it's reinforcing those learnings every single day. And Mandy's on the other side of it to support every individual as they're going through.
And I guess just adding to that, from my perspective, being again part of the program and seeing my team go through the program, the habit builders have truly been a game changer because it almost makes you reflect on exactly what you've learned and how it applies to your situation. So for me personally, before every day, I was thinking about the content that we learned and thinking about, okay, I had this situation today. This is how I reacted. Should I have acted differently given everything that I learned? And just by having the 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it might be for you, for that day, I found that I was able to hone my approach of how I was dealing with complex situations in the leadership context. And I do truly feel that there has been a significant material difference in the way that I have been leading. And it's not just for me, I'm also seeing the same thing happening for my team as well as I'm clearly seeing their capability change over time.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, and Michelle will be able to vouch for this also, is that we gather data as well. So we have a look at what's happening for the group and how we can support them. So as an example, one of the things is what one of the questions we ask is what do you think might get in the way of you being able to build this habit? And it's really interesting that you see in the beginning, people will say, oh, workload, I'm just got too much on, or time, I'm not going to have enough time. And then you start working on that and exploring that. And you suddenly see a shift, and suddenly one of the options that they have to choose from is nothing. I'm doing this. I'm certain I'm going to do this. And the amazing thing is to see the shift in people going, this is my career. I want to actually stretch my leadership capability. I will always have the excuse of workload and time. I need to make this happen if I want to grow as a leader. And you actually, when I work with groups, you actually see that change suddenly happen because we're all supporting each other and saying, well, let's stop making excuses and let's start using what we're learning. And that's really powerful.
Fantastic. Thank you. So we do have another question. What have been the key benefits to Anne Above and myself particularly probably as being individual participants in the Courageous Leaders program? Anne Above, shall I throw to you first?
Sure, I can start that. I guess the key benefit for me personally has been just in terms of, I guess, honing my leadership capability. Delegation, for example. I think I have been managing many teams over the years, but when it comes to delegation, there were specific things that I used to do that I'm not doing anymore. So for example, I'd just be able to tell a person that, look, I need this task to be done, just get it done. And typically my expectation was, just like I would be doing it myself, they would ask me if they have any questions or I'll just get it done. But as I went through the course, I sort of realized that people are at different places, and so you've got to provide a little bit more context, and just being able to change that delegation approach to increase or reduce the amount of direction that I give based on the person has been quite powerful. For example, the other aspect that has been really powerful is been the power of vulnerability. As a leader, it is really hard for you to be vulnerable. But what I found is that over the course of time, as you become more and more vulnerable, it opens you up to more trusting relationships. More people come to you and trust you with information, with the problems, with the issues. Otherwise, they just start avoiding them or avoiding coming to you. And what that does is that the issues just tend to fester until they become so big that you cannot deal with it anymore. So from my perspective, I guess there's been this piece around delegation, as well as there's been this piece around vulnerability that I have seen really help me in my personal leadership journey.
Fantastic. I guess from my perspective, my leadership journey, the greatest benefit I think I have found is determining what kind of leader I want to be, and then having a look at, well, how do I perceive myself as a leader versus how does the rest of the business or my team or individual people see me as a leader? Is there a gap there? And if there's that gap, then how do I need to change that? Do I need to work on myself a little bit more and what's going on in my head to say, you know, working on particular parts of my own leadership style? Or do I need to work really on that perception that people are seeing of me as a leader, and determining what kind of person I want to be? That's probably been the biggest shift for me. It's taken a long time, but going back to the habit builder, I've certainly found that the habit builder has helped me to reinforce who I want to be and what I want to be in the organisation. Mandy, have you seen that in terms of, I guess, that you were talking before in your presentation around that kind of self-awareness component of the forums? Can you talk us through some of that and how that would work?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the things that we do is we constantly look at ideal self and say, look, this isn't about me telling you this is what a good leader is and this is what a bad leader is, because that's not what it is. And people will often say to me, well, you know, what kind of personality preferences do I need to have? I had this conversation just the other day with someone saying, I'm really introverted and quiet, I'm not very charismatic, so I'll never be able to be a good leader. And it's like, no, what you have to do is work out who you are and how you want to turn up. And you don't have to be this, you know, standing on the stage, you know, blowing and being incredibly charismatic and singing and dancing, you know. Yes, some people lead that way. Other people can lead very quietly, very humbly, and get incredible outcomes. But the thing is, it's just as what you said, Michelle, is you have to decide how you want to turn up, how you want to be, and bring that consistently so that you feel good about how you're turning up. And when you do that, you're going to bring out the best in others. And I think there are a lot of stories that people tell themselves that I'm not a very good leader, I'm not going to be a leader, I can't be a leader, because of who they've been surrounded by. And this is particularly true. I'm working with an organisation that's placing a lot of emphasis on diversity and inclusion, and it's particularly true for women. We have to be very mindful. So if we're conscious of diversity and inclusion, we have to be conscious of how are we promoting leadership and looking at what kind of leaders we want and being inclusive of everyone. That there's not one person. You know, James Kutzes is known as saying there is no leadership gene. We're not born with a leadership gene, you know, that says, I'm a good leader. It's about hard work, it's about discipline, and it's about being prepared to jump in and hold the mirror up and have a good hard look at yourself and the choices that you're making. And to me, the people that do that and use the habit builder to do that are the ones you just see them going like this, you know, in their confidence, their conviction, and their courage to be the leader they want to be.
Fantastic. Thank you. Now, we do have one more question, and this is in terms of, Mandy, I'm going to throw this one to you.
Yeah.
How does this program and these forums work with the existing organisational learning and development or leadership programs in, say, the council environment?
Sure. I think what would be really good is if, for instance, the council decides to put some people onto the leadership forums, and if there's particular competencies or there's particular things that they've been focused on internally, great. Send me an email, let me know what it is, and I'll integrate it. It's really easy to do that. I would never want to contravene whatever's happening internally. I think the really neat thing about these leadership forums, so there's some community centres that we've been working with, a colleague of mine, we've been running leadership forums, and there's about 12 different leadership centres that come to the forums. And what they're loving is, yes, they've all had different leadership programs and things that they're doing or have done. But I think Annabelle shared before, it's really cool to hear from outside, just hear what other people are doing. So, you might be up in Port Macquarie and you might be listening to somebody who's sort of down south in Kiama, and you just go, wow, you do that. I'd never thought of that. And I think it's that cross-fertilization that's really powerful. So we'd be very mindful of being able to integrate that. You just need to talk to us. Hopefully that answers the question.
That's great. In terms of more information or any questions that you might have following this webinar, you can certainly contact your business development manager at LGP or anyone within our consulting team. The email address, we'll put that into the chat, is consulting@lgp.org.au. So thank you so much, Mandy, for joining us today. And Annabelle, thank you for your input also. And thanks so much to everyone for turning up today and for hearing about the launch of our leadership forums. Thanks so much.
Thank you.